Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to Yoga Wellness Instructor course, the first unit, the second chapter. The title of this chapter is Yoga, its origin, history and development. What is yoga? We have seen in the previous class. Yujyate anena iti yogaha is the etymological definition, or you can also say etymological meaning. And from where this yoga started, where is the origin of this yoga? So if you look at our Indian philosophy, Indian scriptures, as I mentioned in the previous class, we are having something called Vedas. So the Vedas are the main origin for the yoga. So how many Vedas are there? There are 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. These are the 4 Vedas. Before giving these 4 names, there was only one thing, that is called knowledge. It was a Karna Parampara. Karna Parampara means listening from the teacher and retaining what heard, then passing on to the next generation. Hence, it is called Karna Parampara. In those days, there were no laptops, no computers, there is nothing called typing machines, there is no papers. People used to listen very carefully, attentively. Even they don't have the opportunity to write the notes by listening. And there is no opportunity for the review, like recording videos also not available. They used to focus, concentrate and listen. Hence, it is also called Shruti, because from the Shravana, it is also Shruti. Shruti word came from the Shravana, because that which is heard is called Shruti. And there was only one knowledge. And there was one great Mahatma. That Mahatma's name was Badarayana. That Mahatma's name was Badarayana. He had a vision for the future generations. And he thought, let me collect this knowledge and save this knowledge in a form of some material. Those days, then only started using the palm leaves to store the information. So the palm leaves are there, and people used to write on those palm leaves, and they used to be stored. Palm leaves are the palm leaves. There is a possibility of getting the rust. There is a possibility of the goats are coming and eating. There are any number of possibilities to destroy them, to spoil those palm leaves. But still, our great Mahatmas took so much time and energy to preserve. And this Badarayana went around the world, went around the country, collected this knowledge from the different rishis, from different rishis. And each rishi, in their ultimate meditation state, when they are tuning with the Ishvara, they used to reveal certain experiences. They used to reveal certain knowledge. What is this tuning? Now we can understand better this tuning. If your mobile phone is there, if your TV is there, when it tunes with the satellite, the picture comes very clear. You can able to hear the voice very clearly. When it is tuned with the satellite, when it is tuned with the signals, But our rishis, they used to tune with the highest satellite, that is Ishvara, through their mind. Through their mind. And they used to reveal so many experiences. And all those experiences, all the knowledge, whatever they gained, they used to share to the next generation or their friends, their students, their children. This is how knowledge is passed on. And no Rishi claimed for the patent or copyright. They used to say, this is not my knowledge. Just I tuned with the Ishvara. Ishvara is given this knowledge. So hence, this knowledge belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara means God or Lord. It is not me. It is belongs to the Ishvara. So hence, we don't see any author for the Vedas. For that, I can also give one information. If I ask a question, who is the author for the physics? Who is the author for the chemistry? There is no specific author for the physics. There is no specific author for the chemistry. Then what is the physics? The physics is nothing but the few scientists' contribution put together is called physics. What is the chemistry? Similarly, the few scientists, the experiments, the results putting together is called chemistry. But as such, there is no author for the physics. As such, there is no author for the chemistry. Of course, in the physics, it is contributed by the many scientists. Chemistry, it is contributed by the many scientists. Similarly, these Vedas, we don't see any author. Like a physics, no author, chemistry, no author, Vedas also no author. Then how this came? So it is the contribution of the different rishis which they experienced, they reveled in that knowledge in their highest meditation that they contributed. But in the modern times, every scientist may take a credit. This is my finding, this is my research work. I found, I discovered, I invented. They may take, but our rishis used to say, I don't want to take any credit. Because it is by Ishvara Jnanam. This knowledge came from the Ishvara. What I did only one thing. I was only trying to tune my mind with Ishvara. That my mobile phone is tuning to the internet, so I can watch the YouTube videos. Can mobile says, because of me, these YouTube videos are coming, because of this laptop, you can able to see the Srinivas in the June and we can hear. So it is a greatness of the laptop. It is not the greatness of the laptop. When you say the greatness of the laptop, immediately electricity comes. Oh, you are giving the credit to the laptop. Okay, let me go away now, time being. Now what your laptop will do? Nothing. So there are many factors are involved. What we need to do only to tune our mind, to sharpen our mind, to connect with the nature, to connect with the Ishvara. That's what Rishis does. They have done. They are given this knowledge. And this knowledge is scattered different places. With each Rishi having their own experience, it is scattered. So our Badarayana, he traveled, he collected all this knowledge and he started making available for the on palm leaves. Now, for example, we want to write a book. If I want to write a book, there are so many pages. Say, suppose there are 5,000 pages. If I publish a book with the 5,000 pages, it is very difficult for the binding. It is very difficult for the handling. So what I do? I will make into the different parts. So volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4. are part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Similarly, our Rishi Badarayana, he made into the 4 parts all the collected knowledge. All these Vedas, he given into the 4 parts. So hence, this Badarayana's name also is changed as a Veda Vyasa, one who codified the Vedas into the 4 parts. Hence, Badarayana Maharishi is also called Veda Vyasa. This is a sidetrack information, because this is sidetrack information also part of your syllabus. Sometimes a question comes, who codified all the 4 Vedas? Then answers may be there, Badarayana, Patanjali, and your name and my name. Suddenly, you know, oh my God, nowhere Vyasa name is there. Who is this? Then you will choose your name and you will get fail. So we should know Badarayana and Veda Vyasa is one and the same. Veda Vyasa is the title is given because he codified the Vedas into the 4 parts. As he codified the 4 parts, he would have given the name Veda 1, Veda 2, Veda 3, Veda 4. If you are having the 4 children for you, 4 daughters or 4 sons or 2 sons, 2 daughters, can you going to say, hey, this is my number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? Whenever you want to, hey, number 1 come here, hey, number 2 come here, number 3 come here. Would you like? No, we want to give some name. Even for our house also we'll give some names. The same way, the Veda Vyasa, now I am changing the name, Badarayana to Veda Vyasa. So Veda Vyasa is given the name to these 4 parts. What are those names? Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda. So these are the 4 Vedas. Even though there are 4 Vedas, all the Vedas are teaching the same thing. Only one thing. This topic comes once again for us. There is one more lesson is there on the Purusharthas and Vedas. That time we will again continue the thread from here, the topic, and will elaborate more there. So now this Vedas being the main source, the Vedas being the main source of knowledge, and our yoga is also is there in the Vedas. So this is one of the question occasionally comes into the in the exam. In which Veda yoga is found? Of course, it is there in all the 4 Vedas, but we specifically answer Rig Veda. So in the Rig Veda, we can see the word yoga, because being it is a first part, volume 1. So hence the title might have been given as a Rig Veda. But if you ask me, it is there in all the 4 Vedas. Okay. So it is a Rig Veda. This is called Vedic period. This is called Vedic period. So now this, let us see the development of yoga, how this development took place. Obviously, the first one is Vedic period, and second one is not the second one. The second point which I am highlighting now, don't give the number now, afterwards you give the number. To make you to understand better, I am bringing this order, different order. From these 4 Vedas, there are so many Mahatmas, great Maharshis, they studied, they want to give something to the society from the Vedas. They want to give something to the society from the Vedas, whatever they have studied, whatever they felt, it is a very good heart touching to them. Each person having its own desire, its own likes and dislikes. For example, when you go to a supermarket, There are so many things are available, and you are looking at the bitter gourd. You see, hey, so many bitter gourds are there. Who will buy this bitter gourd? And you go inside and you come out. By the time bitter gourds are finished, because there is someone else who like the bitter gourd. So like that, in the Vedas, one Maharshi developed one thought of philosophy, which I mentioned in the previous class. And our Patanjali Maharshi, he took the topic of yoga. So it is based on the Vedas only. Whatever the Patanjali Maharshi developed the topic yoga, it is based on the Vedas. So now Patanjali being the Maharshi, the Rishi for the Yoga Darshana, hence Patanjali Maharshi period is called classical period. Because from the yoga point of view, okay, from the yoga point of view, Patanjali Maharshi period is called classical period. So after Patanjali Maharshi, what is that period is called? Post-classical. So before the Patanjali, what you call pre-classical. Patanjali is the main for the yoga philosophy. So hence it is called classical period. Then after the classical period comes, it is a post-classical. Before the Patanjali is called pre-classical. Now question comes, where is the Vedic period? Before the pre-classical, Vedic period is there. So what you can say Vedic period means? The scattered the knowledge everywhere, and Badarayana came, collected the information, preparing the proper notes to present in a systematic way. All these things can be called Vedic period. Now once everything is done, now the Upanishads become very highlighted topic, because the ultimate goal of the human being to know who am I, that will be given in the Upanishads. So Upanishads also called pre-classical period. Vedas are the base. Upanishads also part of the Vedas. Don't think that Vedas are different, Upanishads are different. Upanishads are part of the Vedas. This we will discuss more when the other unit comes about the Vedas, its divisions, its presentations. Okay. So Vedic period, pre-classical, classical, post-classical. So what you can do, you add the yoga for every word at the end. First one is Vedic period, you keep as it is. Then pre-classical yoga, classical yoga, and post-classical yoga. So these are the 4 divisions we can take. Classical yoga is a period of the Patanjali Maharshi. Post-classical yoga is after the Patanjali Maharshi. Pre-classical yoga is before the Patanjali Maharshi. But still yoga is there. In the Vedic period also, yoga is there. This is the history and development. So now let us see a little bit more into one by one headings. Now, in this history, there is one more point we need to be highlighted. That also we can take under the Vedic period. In olden days, students used to go to the teacher. They used to stay with the teacher, with the guru, and there they used to learn from the guru. At the same time, they used to participate in household activities, household duties, supporting to the teacher, helping preparation of everything, and they used to learn from the teacher. So this also is a very important point, Guru Shishya Parampara. And this point specifically highlighted in the Mundakopanishad. Sometimes this question comes, couple of times this question came. Guru Shishya Parampara depicted in which Upanishad? That is the Mundaka Upanishad, Mundakopanishad. So the Vedic period, this period is marked by the emergence of the Vedas. The Rig Veda is a sacred scripture of our Vedas. Not only the Rig Veda, all the Vedas are the very, very sacred scriptures. And especially the people who are living in India, the followers of these Vedas are called Vaidika. One who is following the Veda is called Vaidika. Modern times, people may think, oh, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. These are the things came recently. Recently means 1000, 2000 years for us. Whatever we say recent, that is a 2000, 3000 years. Okay. That is a recent for us. Because this Vedas, when it came, you cannot go and find out the origin of the Vedas when it started. Still, some people says 10,000 years. Some people says 15,000 years. Some people says 20,000 years. But we cannot find out when it started. That is the greatness of the Vedas. Veda is starting from the root called Vid. Vid is the dhatu. Vid means to know. Vid is to know. And all the Vedas, the knowledge is contributed by the different rishis. And one who codified these four Vedas is the Badarayana, later called Veda Vyasa. This is a good enough for the Vedic period. Now look at the pre-classical yoga before Patanjali came into existence. So what could be there here? The Upanishads form the main texts of this period. The pre-classical yoga, Upanishads are the main texts. There are so many yoga related Upanishads are there. Yoga Tara, Yohavali, Yoga Bindu. Number of Upanishads are there. There are so many Upanishads exclusively dedicated for the yoga. And these are called Vedanta. These Upanishads are also called Vedanta. What is the meaning of the Vedanta? In literal meaning, Veda Anta, end of the Vedas. Oh, end of the Vedas means there is a one book is there. Book is having the 100 pages. So last 10 pages are called Vedanta because the end of the book. Don't take like that. Then we have to go a little bit more into this one. Each Veda is classified into 4 sections. Each Veda is classified into 4 sections. First one is called Mantra Samhita. The second one is called Brahmanas. The third one is called Aranyaka. Fourth one is called Upanishads. This is the division of the Vedas. In the Mantra Samhita, just all the mantras are given. Everything given in the Sanskrit. So hence it is called Mantra Samhita. And in the Brahmanas, Mantra Samhita, the next Brahmanas, how to perform the rituals are explained. How to perform the rituals are given in the Brahmanas. And the third one is called Aranyakas. In the Aranyakas, the more different techniques of the Upasanas are given. Upasanas, you can also say meditations. So many, some thousands of meditation techniques are provided in the Aranyakas. Then fourth one comes the Upanishads. This Upanishads deals with the knowledge about the self. Who am I? From where I came? Before my birth, where I was. After my death, where I will be. Am I this body or am I something else? About our own self, the Vedas are teaching. Hence, Upanishads are called Vedanta because the culmination of the knowledge is taking place in the Upanishads. Hence, it is called Vedanta, not because it is the last pages of the book. the culmination of the knowledge, ultimate knowledge, who am I? That we will learn from the Upanishads. Then if that is the purpose, why the other things are there? Brahmanas, Aranyakas, Mantra Samhita, all those are required to prepare our mind. To preparation, we need to prepare to go to the higher state. So the remaining 3 sections helps us to prepare ourselves to reach the higher goal, to study the Upanishads, to study the Vedanta. So pre-classical yoga, you can say Upanishads and also the Vedanta. Okay, these expound upon 3 subjects, and in the Upanishads and in the Vedas, there are 3 points are explained. What are those 3? Number 1, Jiva. Jiva means the individual self. Jagat. Jagat means the world. And the third one, Ishvara. Ishvara means the God or creator of this universe. Before going to understand the Vedanta, before going to study who am I, a seeker starts the journey with these 3. Who is this individual? What is this Jagat? Who is the Ishvara? Because in our day-to-day experience, these 3 things are there. I am there and you are there. You are there means you are other than me. Other than me, everything is called Jagat. I am the subject. Other than me, everything is object for me. So that object you can say Jagat. And who is the creator of this Jagat? Who created me? Who created this Jagat? How the things are happening? That means there is someone else is there. You may call energy, you may call consciousness, you may say any other name. So in Sanskrit, we call that name as Ishvara. So these are the 3 basic things, the basic principles or basic words a seeker knows in the beginning. They study and they will start the journey. And the climax of the inquiry is the experience of the essential identity of the individual soul. Like in the previous class, I mentioned Jivatma with the ultimate reality. This is the ultimate reality. The Param Brahma or Paramatma or Brahman. The Upanishads expound the teachings of the Vedas. The idea of ritual sacrifice from the earlier part of the Vedas was transformed into the idea of sacrifice of the ego through the self-knowledge. In the mantras, in the rituals, in the yajnas, in the yagas, whatever you are doing, we are offering something. Na? When you go to a temple, you offer some flower. When you do some ritual, you offer something. All the time, offering is there. Even when you go to the see elders, your teachers, your elders, it is a tradition. You should not go with the empty hands. You have to take something with you and you need to offer. It may be fruit, it may be some flower, it may be some gift, it may be some dakshina, whatever it may be. So everyone need to offer something when they meet the elders. That is the thing. We start the journey. How long we are going to offer all these things? Till you offer your ego. Till you surrender your ego. That surrendering the ego takes place only in the higher knowledge, in the self-knowledge. So till that time, for that time, all these 3, other than Upanishads, is going to train us, help us to make us purify. Antakarana Shuddhi, inner instrument to purification. Manas has to become pure. The mind has to become more and more pure. The more the pure the mind, the sharp will be the intellect. the clear vision and perfect concentration. If the mind is not clear, mind is having so many malinas, the impurities, concentration won't be there. And mind cannot sit at one place in for even 1 minute. It is keep on going here and there, keep on going here and there. So hence the three things before the Upanishads will help us to train our mind, to purify our mind. And some people take these rituals for the other purpose also. What is that purpose? The purpose is they want to go to the heaven. So I want to do this puja, I want to do that puja, I want to perform this ritual, I want to perform that ritual, so that I will get some punya, some the result of the virtuous. So I will encash after my death going to the heaven. It is like reserving the seat in a flight. When you want to go somewhere, what you do? Before 1 month or 2 months, you plan. Let me book my ticket. Let me reserve my seat. Let me have the web checking so that I will confirm my seat. Then when I go straight away, I can go inside. Wanting to go to the heaven also is the same. Another example I will give. So now 1 year I am working on, every year 11 months I will work hard. 1 month I will enjoy my life. I want to go to somewhere else, nice resort. I want to spend the 1 month in the resort. I don't do anything. All the resort people will take care of everything of mine. How long this resort owner, the spa owner takes care of you? So long your purse is thick. The once the balance is over in your purse or in your credit card, the resort owner will say, bye bye, see you. And if you say, hey, still yesterday you are calling me sir, and you are respecting me, you are always bending your back in front of me, and whatever I am asking, you are giving me. Today you are saying, I want to stay another 15 days because I was inspired with your love and care. I am in love with you. I want to stay here for another 1 more month. Resort owner says, wonderful, no problem. Give the money, you stay. And you say, hey, you know, we already become very close friends. I am in love with you. Now I don't have any money. What the resort owner will do? They will kick you out without any mercy. They will call the boys. They will take your luggage, throws out. Why? Currency is over. Similarly, when you go to the Swarga, when your Punya card is over, you will be kicked out and suddenly again you will fall on the earth. That time you may take a human being birth or you may be the animal, who knows. As long as balance is there in your credit card or in your debit card, in my dear friends, in Swarga credit card won't works, only debit card works. Credit card is you buy first, you pay afterwards. Whereas a debit card, you first deposit in the bank, then you use. So in the Swarga, no credit card, only debit card, only ATM card. In case if any of you are planning to go to the Swarga, remember your credit card won't work. You need to earn the punya, deposit in the bank of Chitragupta. He will store, then he will send you to the particular Swarga. Once the balance is over, you are kicked down. That is the one purpose people use the Vedas. There are other people. Who are the other people? I am not interested in the heaven. I am not interested in this spa. I am not interested in the resort. I am only interested in myself. I want to know myself. Who am I? Am I this body? Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I Indian? Or am I Russian? Or am I something else? Am I Srinivas? Do you think I am Srinivas? I am not Srinivas. Srinivas is my name. I am not Srinivas. I am telling you, I am not Srinivas. Srinivas is my name. If I would have taken birth to some other parents, if I would have taken birth in the Muscat, my parents would have given me the name, instead of the Srinivas, they would have given the name Rahim. If I would have taken birth in America, my parents would have given the name to me, John. It is only my name, not me. I am not Srinivas, I am not Srinivas, I am not Rahim, I am not John. I am what I am. So who am I then? You know, I am the man. Hey, man is your gender. That is your gender. I am Indian. Indian is your nationality. You know, I am a black. That is your skin color. Then who am I? Where I was before taking birth. From where I came. If you know the science, you say, no, I came from my mother's womb. How you came to in your mother womb? Through my father. How you came into your father? From the father, mother, and you came, this much we know. How you came into your father? So I want to know. So before I came into my father, where I was. And after death, what is going to happen to me? So, in fact, who am I? That is the culmination of the teachings of the Upanishads. Upanishads and Vedas teaches us to know our own self. In the process, everything else becomes a sahakari sadhana, a instrument to support to know my own self. So this is second people who want to know about one's own self, they will also perform the pujas, they will also perform the rituals, they will also do the japa, but purpose is antakarana shuddhyartham. For the inner instrument purification, people perform everything, all the pujas and rituals. So what does it mean? Even though you are interested to know about your own self, don't give up the rituals, don't give up your puja, don't give up your religious activities. Whatever the religion you follow, you need to follow those things. Because every religious practices are useful for our inner instrument purification. All the religious practices helps for the purity of the mind. That is the ultimate goal of every religion. To love everyone. To see the Ishvara, to see the God in everyone. So that is the idea. But how long I can see? So let me also know who am I. That is a culmination of the knowledge. Then that comes the Upanishads. And these Upanishads can also called Jnana Yoga. The knowledge of the Upanishads also called Jnana Yoga. Previously I told Vedanta. Now I am giving one more term, Jnana Yoga. So other than these Upanishads, the remaining three parts of the Vedas together can be called Karma Kanda, or you can say Karma Yoga. So now Vedas, we are seeing only two divisions. Previously I told the four divisions. Now the four I made into the only two. One is a Karma Kanda, other one is a Jnana Kanda. One is a Karma Yoga, other one is a Jnana Yoga. And suddenly there will be a question is coming in your mind. Yes, Srinivas, what about the Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga? Then there are so many other yogas I heard. What about the Bhakti Yoga? So my dear friends, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, any other yogas are part and parcel of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Without Bhakti, there is no Karma Yoga. Without Bhakti, you are not going to enter into the Jnana Yoga. Raja Yoga. What is Raja Yoga? Mind control, training of the mind. Without a trained mind, you cannot do Karma Yoga. So without the trained mind, you cannot understand Jnana Yoga. So hence, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, or any other yogas, whatever you say, part and parcel of Karma Yoga as well as Jnana Yoga. That's what Bhagavan Sri Krishna highlights in the Bhagavad Gita, saying, Lokesmin Vivida Nishta Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, people will have the Nishtha, the commitment in either one of these two. One is Jnana Yoga, other one is Karma Yoga. Commitment to this one or that one. So if you are having the commitment into the Karma Yoga, that leads you to the Jnana Yoga. If you are having the commitment to the Jnana Yoga, means you have already prepared with the Karma Yoga. That is the idea. So this is about the pre-classical yoga. Now enter into the classical yoga. In the classical period of yoga, Patanjali Maharshi is the main. During the lifetime of the Patanjali Maharshi, that is called classical yoga, and the greatest contribution by the Patanjali is Yoga Shastra. And there is a beautiful prayer on the Patanjali Maharshi. It says, Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Even though we are studying the yoga, it is also said the same Patanjali Maharshi who contributed Ayurveda, also the Vyakaranam. Hence this prayer, Yogena Chittasya, by the yoga, Chittasya, the impurities of the mind. So Patanjali Maharshi helped us to purify our mind through yoga. Padena Vacham, by the speech, by the words, by the Vyakaranam, Patanjali Maharshi helped us to improve our speech. Improve our speech means don't think about the speech therapy. Speech, here, what to speak, what not to speak, how to speak, how much to speak. The Sanskrit grammar. Samskrita grammar is given by the Panini Maharshi. And over the Panini Maharshi's Vyakarana Sutras, Patanjali Maharshi written the Mahabhashya. Mahabhashya. Shankaracharya's commentary is called Bhashya. Patanjali Maharshi commentary is called Mahabhashya. And what else is there? Malam Sharirasya. Malam means impurities. Sharirasya, of the body. So through the Ayurveda, Patanjali Maharshi wrote certain books on Ayurveda also. Through the Ayurveda, Patanjali Maharshi helped us to remove the impurities from our body. So hence, I salute that Patanjali Maharshi. Here we need to observe one subtle point. Patanjali Maharshi is concentrating only on the three things. What are those three? One is mind, second one is the speech, the third one is the body. If we can do the alignment of these three, you are a great yogi. In the asanas, we talk about the alignment. In the modern times, it is a very popular word in the yoga classes, asana classes. People talk alignment, alignment. You know what alignment we need? The alignment, what you think, what you speak, what you do. That is the alignment. That is the contribution of the Patanjali Maharshi. Yogena chittasya, keep the mind. Padena vacha, speech. Malam sharirasya, body. So what you think, what you speak, what you do, we need to have the coordination between these three. Hence, these three should be in a good condition. Patanjali Maharshi contributed for these three. If we can able to coordinate these three, we are the yogi, the greatest yogis. As a topic of the yoga instructor program, so here we take the classical yoga period related to the yoga. So in that yoga, Patanjali Maharshi given sutras. Sutra means there is a specific definition is there. What is that sutra means? That we will see when we are studying the Patanjali Yoga Sutras as a part of our syllabus. That time I will explain what is the meaning of the sutra, what is the definition of the sutra. Okay, and these sutras related to the yoga, hence Yoga Sutras given by the Patanjali Maharshi. So therefore Patanjali Yoga Sutras, like a Newton gravitation, Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So to make you to understand, I am bringing the Newton name. Otherwise, we don't require the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. These Patanjali Yoga Sutras divided into the 4 chapters, and each chapter there are certain number of sutras. Among all these 4 chapters, different topics, the very popular topic is Ashtanga Yoga. This Ashtanga Yoga is also called Raja Yoga. Swami Vivekananda popularized Ashtanga Yoga as a Raja Yoga. Sometimes this question also comes. And entire Patanjali Yoga Sutras also, some people calls Raja Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga is also called Raja Yoga. Either way, we don't have any issue here. Raja means a king. Why Raja Yoga? Because in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, all other yogas are included. When you look at the Ashtanga Yoga, Karma Yoga is included, saying the tapas, and Kriya Yoga, second chapter, tapas itself is there, and Bhakti Yoga is there, Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to the God, and Jnana Yoga is there, Swadhyaya. Like this, all other yogas are covered, hence it is called Raja Yoga, popularized by Swami Vivekananda. So remember the Ashtanga Yoga here, and we are having the exclusive class on Ashtanga Yoga. In fact, there are 2 classes for Ashtanga Yoga as per the syllabus. Now look at the post-classical yoga. This post-classical yoga, after Patanjali Maharshi, there are so many rishis contributed for the yoga. Among those so many rishis, the few popular well-known rishis are Swatmarama, Gherenda. These 2 are the very popular names. Why I am taking only these 2 names? Because these 2 rishis are contributed, given some books to us. Swatmarama given Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Gherenda Rishi is given Gherenda Samhita. This also we are having the exclusive one more session about the Hatha Yoga texts. That time we will see what is this Hatha Yoga Pradipika, what is the Gherenda Samhita, what is there. So post-classical yoga, from the after Patanjali Maharshi till today, including you and me, we come under post-classical yoga. So under this post-classical yoga, very popular people are Krishnamacharya, B.K.S. Iyengar, Swami Shivananda, Kuvalayananda, Swami Kuvalayananda, Swami Vivekananda, Paramahamsa Yogananda, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, Aurobindo. So these are very popular. At present, popular yogis are Ramdev Baba, Sadguru Jaggi Vasudev, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, Dr. H.R. Nagendra. Present contemporaries, they are now Swami Niranjanananda of Bihar School of Yoga. Like that, there are many are there. These are the few names I am mentioning. You can also mention your own name also, because you are also comes under post-classical yoga. So don't get confused. All of them are post-classical yoga other than Patanjali Maharshi. But if name is given the Badarayana or Vyasa Maharshi, he comes under Vedic period, not classical, not pre-classical, not post-classical. So this is about a brief introduction, the history and the development of yoga according to your syllabus. Okay, there are so many names, you can go ahead. So now I will conclude the session with the prayer, then I will give a chance to you ask the questions. Okay. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Om.